Welcome back, Airbnb family. Today I want to cover a few topics. Something big happened to us this month. We're actually still working through it, and it's brought up a few things that I think you need to know if you want to protect your Airbnb business and keep growing. I'm going to teach you how not to get kicked out of properties. Let's roll that one. So here's the rub. We picked up 13 units in a month in Dallas. We wanted 25, but there's a delay in one of our negotiations, which is finally coming to its final stages, which is cool and all. But we picked up 13. 8 of those we got in the same building, and we had an Airbnb guest get in a fight with a leasing agent's boyfriend and that leasing agent, okay? So Airbnb guest, 4th of July drunken fight with a leasing agent and his drunk boyfriend caused an issue. Building's not happy, right? Normally, you get lease violations if you have guests misbehave because you are on the hook for whatever your Airbnb guests do. It's just the way that the leases work. You will get lease violations because you cannot absolutely control all of your Airbnb guests. It's almost impossible. Somebody's going to lie to you about their party size. People are going to act a fool at your pool, stuff like that. This is going to happen, and you just kind of have to plan for the worst here. But the way to work around this is you need to develop good communication with your building, and you need to get them to trust you, right? You need to get them to kind of like love on you a little bit, so if anything ever goes wrong, they're going to work with you. So what we did wrong here is we picked up 8 units at the same building right away. That's a lot of units, and so something wrong happened quickly. 4th of July was like a week and a half after we finally set up all these properties. There's no time really for me to build a deep amount of rapport or handle other smaller issues well. This was like a big one, and it was right away. So what this did is this, of course, sent this up the line. The regional director, the owners of the building were not happy. And, of course, it kind of brought up that what do we do about these transient guests who are going to possibly lose us normal leases? So they asked us to surrender the leases for 8 properties and just move out is what they asked us to do. That's a huge blow, of course, to our growth. And, if it was avoidable, I would have liked to avoid it. And I hope that this is going to help you avoid that situation. So here's a couple things that you can do. 1, start small at each property. Kind of take a more Johnny Appleseed approach. And looking back, this is kind of how we did it in Houston. We picked up a few here, 2 here, 3 here. A lot of our portfolios are 2 or 3 units at many different properties. In Houston, I think the most we have at any one property is 5 between 2 buildings. Everything else is scattered 2s and 3s. So it keeps the pressure off the building. Here in Dallas, we got ambitious. We picked up 8. A record 8 at one building. That's the most we've ever done. We have as much as 5 at another building, and the relationship isn't falling apart. It's not the best relationship with the building. I think 5 might be a little bit too much because there is a little too much traffic at that one property if you can avoid it. So I think 3 might be your golden number here. Pick up 3 units at any one building and expand with building management. Go to that same property management company and try to get new properties at their other buildings. More than 3, you really have to have it together. So, more things to do. Not only that, but you need to communicate with your guests well. We have a property manager that reaches out to every guest before their arrival to make sure they understand the check-in instructions, to make sure they understand the house rules. We repeat the house rules in our house manual to make sure that they understand them. Things like this. You really want to be operations focused. So now that we're at scale here, we're pretty big. We can afford to hire people to do this stuff, and our main focus now to keep our quality is focus on operations. So if you can make sure you do preventative maintenance with your guests, it'll keep them from acting a fool and doing something stupid. So communication is going to be key here. So 3 is be at your buildings a lot. Make sure that the leasing staff and the property management can see you, and you want to be responsive and communicative for anything, right? 4 is you can start to create different sets of rules, like do a deeper vetting process. One thing we're offering pretty much at any building now is we offer to background check all of our guests. We're coming into negotiations. Like we're actually bringing this up in our negotiations. Yes, it's more work, but if we background check every single guest, it makes the building trust us more, which is important, and your relationship with your building is what matters. If you get a lease for a year and they give you a non-renewal notice at the end of the year, okay, you made some money for a year, but now you have to move. There's costs to moving, right? And there's a little bit of risk and uncertainty transferring your leases. But with that said, if you can get that building to love you and keep you for years because you made that extra rule, you did that extra bit of legwork, you're going to spend a little bit of your profit on operations and administrative staff, and it's going to save you money and change a year from now. Make sense? So, moral of the story here, protect your properties above all else. We got into one building, too many units, too fast, couldn't build rapport, couldn't build trust with them, could not prevent a 4th of July issue, which absolutely sucks and it kind of breaks my heart. But with that said, I think we learned a valuable lesson here, and it gave me something to teach you guys. On the other side, this is going to give us great stuff for the course that we're building, talking about the leases, the nature of leases, kind of what happens when things go wrong. You guys need to know this stuff. It will be in the course. We're going to go over some legal documents, okay, like the good stuff. We're going to get really deep into it. And of course, a lot of you want to know how we're doing our off Airbnb stuff, because we're not using any of their platforms right now, but we are still getting a good amount of bookings directly, right? So I'm going to teach you guys how to get direct bookings, so that way you can, of course, in the case that Airbnb is ever not good enough, hopefully never, you can still continue your business. I've had developers for buildings want to know what our plan would be if like Airbnb got shut down. This is a valid concern that like multi-unit apartment owners had come with me on, so, or come at me on. So stay tuned, plenty to come. If you have questions about this video, please leave it in the comments and share this with your buddies. Anybody who's an Airbnb host that has a lease out there, forward this along. We want to prevent issues with these buildings. We want to keep Airbnb positive at these buildings. We depend on it as hosts because this is a great way to make money. You just have to protect your stakeholders. So thank you for watching Airbnb Automated, and I will see you on the other side.